Hi, it's Michael Fairman, and I have such a special conversation for everybody today. I hope there's no fighting and brawling in the middle of it, but you never know. With when you got the women that have played Lauren Fenmore and Sheila Carter with you. Kimberlin Brown Pelzer is with me, and Tracy E. Bregman. Oh my gosh, it's so great to see both of you kind of together.
A little bit, right?
We're states apart, but
it's
great to see you though, and thanks for bringing us on. This is going to be a lot of fun.
So much fun to have you. You know, so many people have been so excited this week, knowing that it was Villains Week on Y&R, and they were going to see Sheila and Lauren go at it and have part of their story shown again. And when you look back at the history of daytime in the 90s, and I mean, literally and on in 2000 with you guys, this was an iconic rivalry that is so huge. You guys had to go at it so many times in these scenes. What was it like knowing you had to go through these catfights, these, you know, there's a lot of physicality to them, right? And there were
correct. And I'm about the least physical person you could ever have do this. I was always in heels. I was always wearing bugle beads. And thank God for Kimberlin, who always had her feet planted on the floor, because I would just slide across things and she just pick me back up, put me right where I needed to be, and then we go back at
it. Thank goodness Tracy is a petite little thing. It made it much easier for me. You know, luckily everything was so well choreographed that neither one of us ever got hurt. And the majority of times we managed to get everything done in one take. It was really quite remarkable. And then we'd have to go in for the close-ups, you know, grabbing the hair and slamming it down, and Tracy, you know, throwing stuff
but
at
then my favorite, right?
Yeah.
My favorite was when we had to do the audio after, where it literally sounded like we were doing porn audio. It was so, ooh, you know?
and then they brought in the stunt doubles, right? Because you would see for the real tussle on the floor, throwing you guys around or breaking things over your head. Those were the stunt doubles, right?
Right. They
right,
did
exactly, and they were amazing
on occasion. They definitely did. When I would have to throw Tracy across something completely, yeah, that was definitely a stunt double. That wasn't Tracy.
Shockingly, I said no. I'm not going to do that. Bring in the stunt double. But as Kimberlin and I worked, you know, more and more, and literally our trust between us grew exponentially with that, we actually did much more of the fights as time went on. I mean, remember that fire poker fight? We did so much of that no one could believe how much we did. And someone just asked me on set the other day about fight scenes, and I said, I know it's going to come as a huge shock that I have done more fight scenes than probably all the dudes on my show put together.
100 you have.
True, with our storyline, it definitely was. As a matter of fact, that poker scene that Tracy's talking about, we actually did the entire scene ourselves with the stunt doubles watching us. And then they all looked at us like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you two just did this. And then the stunt doubles did it just for safety, just for a safety shot, in case there was something a bit more physical that they did that we couldn't.
And finally, I was in comfortable clothing and she was in a wedding dress. Remember, you were in the wedding dress for the whole thing? I was like, finally, she gets the hard wardrobe.
Oh my God. So Kimberlin, what do you remember about coming to Y&R and playing the role of Sheila? So when we first met Sheila, she was working in the hospital and she had this obsession with Dr. Scott Granger, right? That was her thing. And she was Naughty Nurse Sheila. I remember we were calling her Naughty Nurse or something like that. And you could tell she was really off kilter there. What do you remember about, did you audition for it? How did you get the role? And what do you remember about your first one?
You know, I originally screen tested for the part of Cassandra Rawlings 3 years earlier.
Oh my God, how
and I didn't get the part. So I was just about ready to stop acting and go back to school. My dream was to always be an architect. when I got a phone call from Jill Newton, who was casting for Young and the Restless, saying, Kimberlin, I have a part. Would you be willing to come in and read for it? I said, Jill, you know what? I'm going back to school. I'm heading a different direction. And she said, well, don't do that. She goes, please, if anything, it's going to be a part that lasts for 1 to 3 months. So it'll help you pay for school. And I said, okay. So I went in to the office, and I remember meeting Ed Scott for the first time and him telling me, think Kathy Bates. Think Kathy Bates in Misery, how you could turn on a dime. I love you, I love you, I love you. And then boom, you know, turn around and take you down. So I sat there and I kind of prepared with that whole, it made it easy for me when I heard that, because I loved that movie and I loved Kathy Bates and that character. So I went in, prepared. I actually read with Peter for Bill Bell and Ed Scott and a few others. And I thought, wow, this is great. I nailed it. And I got out to my car and I realized I left out probably 2 entire paragraphs during the reading. And I'm driving home. I'm going, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I left out these 2 paragraphs. And then I get a call from Gail Camacho, who was taking over for Jill, because Jill was on maternity leave at the time, I believe. And Gail said, hey, you know, how did you feel about the reading? I said, I'm so sorry, Gail, that I left these 2 big pieces out. I'm so embarrassed because I'm always so prepared. I'm so sorry. She let me apologize for 20 minutes and then told me I got the part. So it was, that's a memory I will never forget. And then, of course, you know, that first day on set, I grew up watching Young and the Restless with my mom. I grew up watching that show every single day with my mom, and I never in a million years thought that I would be on my mother's favorite soap opera. And when I got to call her and tell her that she'd get to see me every single day, it was special. It was really neat.
Amazing, amazing. And Tracy, what do you remember when you kind of found out what the storyline was going to be? Did they tell you, like, you're going to be, this nurse is coming in and steal your baby? And like, when did you find out what was really going to happen? And
okay, so what you have to understand is I was pregnant with Austin at the time. So I was hormonal. And then they're telling me it's a baby switch storyline. And I'm like, what? And when I went into Cedars to deliver Austin, my labor delivery nurse thought it was really funny when she knocked on the hospital door and I said, who is it? And she said, Sheila. And I was like, Sheila? You know, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I've been in labor for like 30 hours. And she walks in and goes, Nurse Sheila. And I'm like, you know, I have a really good sense of humor, but I have no humor right now about that. So I was thrilled for the opportunity, which I always am, is to play an emotional storyline, an emotionally rich storyline. And, you know, I was all for it. And on top of it, Bill Bell, I think, was ahead of his time when he said to me, because I took a 1-week maternity leave. I think you remember that, Kimberlin. Yeah, they tried to replace me and they didn't like the replacement. So I came back a week after I gave birth. So it was a little hectic for me. But Bill said to me, you know, I want you to bring your child to work. I want him here every single day, because I know that when you know that your son is just in your dressing room, your mind will be on your work and you'll feel that he's safe. And so we were able to go off and running 1 week later and really do an extraordinary storyline. And I think the audience really, what I think was so great about the audience is that you really were rooting. And sometimes you were rooting for Kimberlin, sometimes you were rooting for me, depending, because I was no saint either. I was having affairs all over the place. And you were no saint. She was switching babies. Huh? What did you say?
You were no saint, by the way. Yes, you were no saint.
But well, you know,
one could try, but I wasn't.
But you know, that's what the brilliance of Bill
Bell was.
That's the brilliance of this Bill Bell story was you weren't a saint. It wasn't like the good girl and then this bad girl, right? It was.
No, I was the original mean girl.
Yeah.
Absolute original mean girl who went after Tracy Abbott and who was sort of redeemed into more of a, you know, heroine with an edge, but a really big edge. And then all of a sudden, you know, you have Nurse Sheila, who really, you know, baby switch, that's a huge deal. But both characters were imperfect. So it's not like you could go, oh, angel, devil. There was crossover, because what Christian and I always say is, how far would you go to protect your family? And Christian and I have both gone over the line to do that.
Kimberlin, how did you make so much of this work? Because you were called upon to do some of the most outrageous plot points ever in soaps. And then they always would love to have a close-up of you sneering or something. Like they always went to your face.
Sneering or giggling, laughing.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it kind of goes back to that whole Kathy Bates note that was given to me when I first started the job, that there was nothing that I could do that would be too far or too wrong in my mind. So even though Tracy, you know, played the mean girl, I played the evil girl. So there was a big difference. But was she evil really because she wanted to be evil, or was she evil because she wanted so desperately to have love in her life, and she didn't know how to go about getting it the way a normal person would? So Tracy's character was always in my way of my happiness. And it's kind of what Tracy just said. How far would you go to protect your family? Well, how far would you go when you really think you're in that position to finally have love in your life like a normal person for the first time? So I would always justify what Sheila did based off of her past. She just never knew how to find love a normal way. And she would do anything she could to try and obtain that love that everybody else had in their life that she craved so desperately. So when you do that and there's no wrong on top of it, it makes those things easier to do. Because I would justify in my mind, before we ever had a crazy scene like that, that what I was doing because I wanted love. So even when I switched the babies and cut the baby's birthmark off, oh my gosh, I got that script, and that's the only time I've ever gone to my producer and said anything about the script, saying, I don't know about this. I don't think that, you know, viewers are going to like this one at all. And I don't feel comfortable cutting it on a child. And basically
drowning me in a jacuzzi was okay.
Yeah, but the baby is a different story.
That's a different story.
Yeah, exactly. But for the baby, you know, Ed Scott looked at me and he said, we just want you to stay at home for a week or two after this storyline, and let's see what happens with it. It's like, wow, okay. That was a tough day though.
But that's why Kimberlin, why you were so good, Kimberlin, is because you didn't play crazy. You justified it from a part of either trying to help or getting something that you wanted, but you never played crazy. And that's why the audience were on the edge of their seat at all times, because they never knew what you were really going to do or what you were truly capable of.
That is such a point. We never knew. The roller coaster ride was intense. Like the stories were always so intense. And I don't think I felt that way even today. Like this was so intense. It was so well done. And Bill Bell had done it so well. It was just like, what's going to happen? Do you remember at that time, because we didn't have social media, we weren't getting real-time feedback that way. You were getting letters, I'm assuming, right? Letters and fan mail.
Yes.
Do you remember what the reaction was that you were receiving while the two of you were battling it out in these storylines?
My fan mail was nothing but positive, surprisingly. I think the whole time I played my character there, I had 3 threatening letters that needed addressing and no more. It was basically, you know, I love to hate you. I love to hate Sheila. Can't wait to see what you and Lauren are up to next. It was awesome. It was great. And Bill, like Tracy said a moment ago, he was such a brilliant storyteller, and he didn't think from week to week or month to month. He was thinking year to year. So when he had something planned out, it wasn't something that was done overnight. it built and it built and it built until it just exploded, and fans could not believe what they were seeing. And to be able to play that and have that kind of history in daytime with Tracy is just something I'll never forget, ever. It's been an amazing ride.
Tracy, what do you remember getting as far as fan reaction at that time to what was going on?
Well, I wanted to add one other thing about Bill Bell is he used to watch our camera blocking. And yes, he had everything planned a year in advance, but he also would watch and pick up chemistry or pick up something that would spur more storyline. Like the whole reason I became the mean girl is because I was walking out of the coffee house, turned and looked at Beth Maitland a certain way. And he went, oh my God. And that's how the true Lauren Fenmore was born. I got, for the first time, because I got very threatening letters with the Tracy Abbott storyline, during the baby switch storyline, and the audience knew that I was pregnant in real life, obviously all the letters sort of changed to more support and, oh my God, watch out for Nurse Sheila, you know, kind of thing.
Just in case you didn't see me.
In case I didn't know, it was very nice how they were all trying to protect me.
Protect you. Well, they were obviously in protective mode then of Lauren. They were watching out for her at this point.
Yeah, but when you think of what Tracy just said, remember, I was told that I was brought on to cause problems between two characters, and it would be a 1 to 3 month part. So what Tracy just said, Bill saw something there. He saw something that sparked more interest in his storyline for the two of us that turned into over 20 some years.
Do you recall, I was going through, I was looking at all the soap opera magazine covers the two of you were on. There are so many. There was tons of soap opera, it was like, and the way you guys were positioned in the photos. I know one, Kimberly had her mouth like, you know, and then one like you're at each other, and there were so many. You were on so many covers with this story. It was like a phenomenon almost, which was pretty amazing.
And we had long story. And it kept coming back. So, you know, just when we thought, okay, we wrapped it up, you know, we started again. But that first run was a very long time, because I don't think my son filled in for the babies playing Scotty around the time I actually found out that Scotty was actually mine. And my son was almost two sitting in there. So, and we had started it prior to my pregnancy. So it was an incredible story. And what Kimberlin said, we were very lucky to get that kind of material.
The episode that aired earlier today, it was Michael and Lauren's honeymoon, and they were going to blow up the yacht. What do you guys recall about taping that episode in Terrible Tom?
I remember that peach juicy sweatsuit I had on that I wore for almost 8 weeks could literally stand by itself by the time.
Yes, it's true. It could.
I could not believe that. That was
actually,
I think on the boat, Kimberly.
I think my Gap wear could stand on itself as well.
Yeah, honey, that outfit walked out by itself.
It was episodes and episodes.
But what I remember is that was a very physical story as well, and the late Roscoe Bourne played it very strongly, and I'm not a very strong girl, and that I remember those boat scenes being a little tough, being a little rough.
It was rough, and Sheila was really nasty in that scene too, because he was roughing her up. Terrible Tom.
And like Tracy said, Roscoe got very, very physical with the two of us. Every once in a while, you had to remind him that you weren't the stunt person. So it was
right, exactly.
If anything, some of those looks of shock and horror were real. But you know, the dynamics between all of us working together, he was so intense when he was working, that there was no way that you couldn't help but get sucked into that intensity as well. So I think it made for great storytelling. It made for great visuals. And obviously, you know, the fans loved it.
Yes, and this was another fight. There was another big cat fight in there. You
Oh,
know,
was there?
like,
Are you sure?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
remember, yeah. And then who can forget being stuck in the basement? Yeah, and I think sales and Juicy went up. Everybody wanted that sweatsuit.
yeah, they, you know, and the thing that was so interesting about this is, and wasn't later we learned that Sheila had children with Terrible Tom later on. Didn't she have 2 kids with him?
Yeah, so I played Sarah Smythe, who was the sister of Sheila. And actually the 2 kids we worked with were your children. You're right.
That's right.
Yeah, they were mine.
Yeah.
They're mine, yeah. And
But-
I have, let's see, I have,
You would have been proud
I think
of them,
I've got like,
honey.
I think I've got like 3 kids out there, 4 maybe floating around. I got to be honest. So it's like every time I hear that,
They
you
were
know,
evil.
well,
like
how do you
Sheila.
know that? Wait, they can't always be like me. Come on, Trace.
I did the storyline with them. I know.
Right, because in that
They weren't evil. They were just trying to get back from mommy.
right,
They were
her children,
misunderstood.
There
I
you
know,
go.
They were misunderstood.
right, and they were Sheila's children getting back for mommy, and then Tracy, you played the doppelganger, looked like you were the plastic surgery version of the sister, right?
Correct.
So that I think
Correct.
we're seeing
Mhm.
too. Yes. What was that like playing that?
That was wild because for me, it was almost 3 characters. So it was Lauren, it was Sarah Smythe, and then when Sarah Smythe took over as Lauren, so I had to have 3 very distinct personalities when I was doing it. Paul Rausch decided the day before I was starting to play twins, where I had 27 scenes in a row with myself, that there was going to be no more camera blocking or rehearsal, that we were going straight to tape.
You were.
Yeah, that was kind of fun. Not.
Oh my God.
And I did it, and I loved doing the double storyline. I thought it was incredible. And I know the House of Mirrors that's being aired tomorrow on Friday was something that took from 6 a.m. one day. I was in front of the camera till 4 a.m. the next morning. And we just had the best time. Everybody was on point, and we had a great time doing it. But boy, it's a lot of work playing twins. A lot of work, a lot of dialogue.
Yeah, oh, it was great. And, you know, Kimberlin, that goes back to they kept, no matter what Sheila did, starting from way back when she set fire to her mother, and she was going to set fire to her mother and Lauren in the cabin, right?
At the farmhouse.
At the farmhouse.
Right.
And she was going to set
Oh yeah, Molly.
She set fire to them. And somehow when the dust settled, nobody knew where Sheila was. So Sheila got away.
Okay,
So
but let's clear something up
Okay.
right now. Okay.
all right.
Oh, okay.
Lauren is the one that kicked over the coffee table with the lantern. So technically,
Oh sure.
fire was started
Blame
by
it on
Lauren.
me.
That's all I'm saying.
The fire Lauren started.
But I do have a
Technically, it
little
was started by
side note.
Lauren.
The fire Lauren started.
Yes.
Okay. I have a little side note. So when Doug Davidson who plays Paul, we went to go visit Sheila's mother Molly in the hospital
Right.
because something happened. Did she fall? What'd you push her? Did you push her? Do you remember?
She had a stroke, but then I think the stroke was.
But then
probably
why
after-
did they put all that?
I tried to put her head
She
in
must
the
have
oven.
fallen because she was wearing.
Tried to put her head in the oven.
You remember when I tried to put her
Oh.
head in the oven? I said, "Mother, work with me on this, will you?"
Oh my God.
It was great.
So they wrap her in all this gauze in her head, right?
Right.
And Doug and I are doing a scene. We walk into the hospital, and you know Doug's sense of humor. And Doug took one look at the actress playing Molly and went, "Oh my God, she looks like a Q-tip."
Marilyn.
And that is the
Marilyn.
last time I could make eye contact with Marilyn, who played Molly, because all I could see was a ginormous Q-tip, and we were doing these very intense scenes, and I was like, "Oh my God, Doug, I am gonna kill you."
So they get this fire, and Sheila is now vanished. So that keeps the character alive. And then she comes back later.
I returned and I was wearing prosthetics, actually.
Right.
I had a short little bob cut. And exactly. I had
the wedding. Yeah.
I had the bigger nose, the bigger chin. I think that's the one that you're talking about, right? And the black bob. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
well,
in the
she
hotel
goes to
room
the hospital and she tries
with the mirror. That I remember.
She goes and tries to kill Lauren with an IV in the hospital in the wig.
Yeah.
What was I doing in the hospital with an IV? That's what I remember.
You were not.
I must have done something to put you there.
All this.
I mean, but like I was saying, they literally kept.
Do you know how many times I watch these I watch these classic episodes and I literally think, I wonder what I'm going to do next. I cannot remember doing a lot of this stuff. Every now and then I'll say, oh yeah, I remember that jacket. I don't know what it is. I think it's because, you just have to empty your brain to put all the other dialogue back in. And I mean, I'm thankful that other actors think it's so too. And it's not just me, but.
And one of the other things that they did with you guys was they did cross you over to Bold and Beautiful too. And they brought the story over there. And they brought, so it was a combo Y&R B&B crossover that was also for the time never been done before. So like that was another groundbreaking thing that both of you were a part of. And I thought that was really cool. And I remember there was the whole thing where Sheila was involved with Eric, and then Scott and Lauren bump into them. And Scott almost blows her cover and says who Sheila is to Eric.
Scott, I want you to meet Mrs. Forrester. This is Sheila Forrester. Hello, Scott.
Scott. Nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
But if you back up just a little bit, when I was on Young and the Restless and I knew my storyline was coming to an end, I got a phone call on set from Bill Bell, and that's something that had never happened to me ever. And I was asked to go over to a phone where he could speak to me. And he was watching Tracy and I work that day. And he said, Kimberlin, he said, there's nothing more I can do to redeem you. You understand that? And I said, absolutely, Bill, I do, but thank you. It's been a great ride. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity. And he said, well, what if you didn't die? What if you went to Los Angeles to get away? I said, uh-huh. And he goes, and in Los Angeles, there's Bold and the Beautiful. And that's what opened it up completely. And my last episode on Young and the Restless was going through the want ads, and there just happened to be an opening for a nurse at Forrester Creations. And that was what, like I said, he was always thinking ahead. And he liked the dynamics between us so much that he didn't want that to go away. He wanted the opportunity to bring that back again and again. And boom, Sheila went to LA and there was Bold and Beautiful.
And Tracy, remember when they said to you, we're going to cross you over too? What did you think?
But if you remember.
Yeah.
She was there first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did both shows for 3 years before I was crossed over. And I was crossed over because Bold and Beautiful was going to be made an hour. And they needed to expand the cast. And that's why I was brought on full time. So I was there for 4 years and then they didn't do it. I was thrilled at the opportunity because I had been going back and forth for 3 years. I knew everybody. I loved the cast. So when I got the opportunity to spend all my time with them, it was just incredible. And some of my favorite times ever.
Kimberlin, yeah. What do people when you're out and about, do people go, Sheila? Like, what do they do when they see you?
They do, actually. I still have people out there regularly saying hello and, you know, saying, hey, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? We need some good spice on the show. And it's like, well, you know, you never know. You never know. Sheila's not dead, so there's always an opportunity. But it's amazing after all these years that I still have a very strong fan base, and I'm blessed for that, because truly, if it weren't for all of them and all of them watching right now today, I would have never been here as long as I was, and got to do the incredible scenes that Tracy and I shared. It's been a great life, and I have them to thank for it. So I'm very excited when I'm out in public and people say, oh my God, it's Sheila. And it's like a lot of pictures and a lot of, oh, can we call my mom? And it's like, sure. So it's a great time.
Tracy, were you ever scared in any of the, other than with Terrible Tom? Were you ever like, you know, because of the way the performance was that Kimberlin was delivering to you as an actress, were you ever like petrified, or were you like, was there any parts of you that was like, this is so horrendous, I can't play this?
No, I mean, the only things that I had the hardest time with were those physical fights. I hated them. I hated doing them. Hated them. And that was the only thing that I didn't like. Other than that, the story, you know, was incredible to play.
But I took care of you. I wouldn't let you get hurt.
That's true. No, she literally held me
She
up.
lifted you.
She really did.
I literally made sure that.
No, she literally did. And then you would just see me do this, and my feet were like dangling on the body. You would never see my feet not hitting the ground. Because I mean, I cannot express more how my wardrobe was so not cat fight worthy.
Yeah.
Always, I was having a problem with that.
Tracy's incredibly petite. For those of you who've never seen her in person, she is the tiniest little thing. So there was just no way I was going to let her hurt herself. And because she was so tiny, I was able to just take her to the mark and just hold it there. Go here and just hold it there. So, I mean, thank you for being so tiny and petite too, Tracy.
Did you?
My pleasure.
So Kimberlin, when all was said and done with all of the things you played as Sheila, what's the one that sticks out in your mind, like at the top thing that she did, moment that you got to play? What's way up there for you?
You know, the one that always comes back to mind is one we already talked about, and that's when I got the script to cut the birthmark off the baby. And that was one that I thought, wow, this is going way beyond what I felt comfortable doing. Everything has been amazing. I mean, you say put one thing at the top, that would be the one that comes to mind first, because it upset me a little bit when I got Kimberlin, not Sheila, but it upset Kimberlin a little bit. And how am I going to deal with this? But every single evil deed that Sheila did, I mean, God, I had fun. I went to work and I got to be crazy and get away with it, or evil and get away with it. And it was exciting for me to go to work today, because my days were never boring, never boring. Playing Sheila was an incredible highlight of my career. And I will never forget the opportunity that the Bells gave me. And Bill allowed me to help create my own character. He told me to run with it. And when I ran with it and I thought I pushed it a little too far, no. In his mind, it's never far enough. Go, Kimberlin. So it's every day was a pleasure for me. It truly was. I got to do things that nobody else got to do.
Tracy, what about you? Do you have a memorable all-time moment in this whole Sheila-Lauren relationship?
I mean, we just had so many scenes. It's hard to pinpoint one of them, but I think the biggest one was when Lauren got Scotty back.
That is such a great
everything
scene.
Around that.
Yeah, it was such a great scene.
There was
when
one
she finally figured it out.
No, you know, there was one other one, Tracy, early on when we were fighting for Scott in the laboratory.
And everything.
Yeah,
Right.
That one
Yeah.
was
That was my favorite cat.
that was an amazing cat fight.
That was that's one for all time. Yeah, that is one for all time.
That was when I was in bugle beads and high heels, right?
Yes.
Sliding down all the tables.
Knocking over beakers as she went along
It
the
was
way.
good though.
It was.
You know what? It was up there with the all-time best cat fight ever. True.
I agree.
She's right.
Tracy, if they said, Lauren's going to have a surprise, Sheila's back, how would you feel about in 2020, 2021, whatever that ends up being, and Sheila's back in Genoa City somehow, would you welcome the opportunity and see, how would Lauren deal with it now, you think? Would she still end up, they'd have to have Sheila get one over on her to get into the story, but how would you feel about that?
Yeah, and at this point, Lauren better hire somebody to do the cat fights for her. But I actually think it would be amazing instead of a physical fight if it was a psychological thriller. Much more in the psychological range and maybe even in business. And Lauren, as you know, will go to the mat. She'll do anything to protect her business, which belonged to her father, which means so much to her, and her family. So it would be interesting if Sheila wasn't going after Scotty yet again, because he's too old anyway at this point. But if it was some sort of business thing where it was a fight of two very, very sharp minds.
And thank you for calling me
You can see I'm protecting my body.
Thank you.
Sharp criminal mind. Yeah.
I'll do anything to protect my body at this point. No, but it's true. I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah. Ditto, Kimberlin, you'd be for that?
Oh, absolutely. You know, where has Sheila been all this time? I guarantee you she hasn't been wasting it. She has tried to become powerful in her own mind, because it was always the people in power that were trying to ruin her when they didn't have to, but it's what they chose to do. So sometimes giving somebody a little dose of their own medicine, if she came back and had that kind of power as well, and was able to put it right in somebody else's face that caused her pain and tried to stop her from progressing and becoming successful.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
I think that would be huge.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
And Lauren would have the clout. She would have the power to cut her off at every turn, because of she being COO of Jabot and owning all the department stores. She would have the power to cut her off, and at every turn. So it would be very interesting.
Okay, so if we promise Tracy we get stunt doubles, you'll play it.
Yes, of course.
I'd like
to be in Nashville while they're doing the stunt double.
I'd like to hear you say that a little more convincingly, please.
Probably not, but you know me. Of course, I would love to play it. I'll do it, of course.
All right.
And I would never let anything happen to her anyway.
Well, ladies, thank you so much. It was so wonderful to reconnect with both of you, especially during this time that we're all in and trying to get through. Kimberlin, so wonderful to see you. Thank you for doing this today. Tracy, always great to see you. And
can I say one more?
Lovely to see you, and stay safe, stay healthy, everyone. Thank you.
Yep. And I have one thing to say. Happy birthday, Tracy. Tracy's birthday is Friday.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Thank
Tracy.
you. She texted me earlier. Thank you. That was so sweet of you to remember. Thank you.
Everybody be healthy.
All right, guys. Oh, yes, please. Please to everyone.